You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. I am your host, Mo, and today's guest is named Isabella Williams. We met back in 2019 when I was asked to come and speak at a company retreat in Vermont. And it was my first time speaking, I believe, in front of 100 plus people as a keynote speaker. And it was an incredible experience overall. And one of the things I specifically did with this experience was I really brought my whole self to it, which meant that I was talking about my intuition and intention and my energy and presence. And I had done it before in smaller settings, but to openly talk about my intuition and what part it plays in who I am was pretty new to do it on a bigger stage as well. And so Bella was sitting in the audience and we connected a little bit during that day. My presentation overall was about a 2-hour experience, but we connected more afterwards. And she mentioned to me that it was because I had talked about my intuition that she felt like she was in the right place at the right time. And I am sharing Bella's story on my platform because of a number of reasons, but one of those that I wanted to make sure to mention here at the beginning was I want you guys to hear a variety of stories and meet a diverse group of people, because I know that you're going to find different things with different speakers that resonate and different people's stories that resonate and help you to feel less alone. Because I think one of the things that has helped me the most in this world is meeting such a variety of people and recognizing the connection in all of us as humans, and then also learning from different people's experiences and learning that the feelings I have felt in my life and the experiences that I've gone through, I've not gone through alone. And so I think Bella's story, and she's 24 years old. I'll share that with you because we shared that on that podcast episode that when we met, I believe she was 19. And there's something about her spirit and her soul that just feels like an old soul to me. And at the same time, I recognize that she's 24 years old and she's at a different part of her life than I am, but we've always connected. And so anyways, before I get too much into the story and cut into the episode, I'm going to share with you the 411 on Bella. So Isabella Williams, a spirited small-town girl hailing from Vermont, boldly ventured beyond her roots to embrace the world. Crowned Miss Vermont Earth 2023, she didn't stop there. As a published children's book author, she's on a mission to bridge educational gaps, advocating for confidence and self-assurance as essential ingredients for learning. Taking her passion to South Africa, she ignited the spirits of thousands of African children, empowering them to embrace education and champion women's rights. Isabella's journey is a testament to the power of determination and the ripple effect of one individual's passion. So in this podcast episode today, we talk about how she got on this path, why she decided to take the leaps that she did, and how she began, why she wrote the children's book called Strong Girls, and her recent trip to South Africa to talk about strong girls and women's rights. And then lastly, her intuition and how she leans into it and the unknown of her journey. So I hope that you enjoy this episode, and please feel free to reach out to Bella or myself on Instagram and share with us what resonated with you. We would love to hear from you. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. I am really excited today to introduce you to a new friend of, oh my God, I just called you a new friend.
It's
and here,
okay.
I'm going to leave this in here, and she's not a new friend, people. We've actually known each other for about 5 years now, if not more. And this is Isabella Williams. Isabella, do I call you Bella or Isabella? Because I'm used to calling you Bella. Okay, this is Bella Williams, everyone. Bella, thank you for joining me today. And why don't you start out by just sharing a little bit with everyone about who you are and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so Margaret and I actually met when I was back in real estate. I used to be a real estate agent, believe it or not. And it's funny, sometimes your path just leads you in unexpected ways. So now I'm a children's book author and I hold the Miss Vermont title. It's my home state. And I just got back from traveling Africa, which is what brings me to this podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Like Bella mentioned, she and I met back when I was speaking at an event for the real estate world out in Vermont back in 2019. And this is actually exactly where I wanted to start, because I wanted to ask you, I think part of why I wanted to share your story on my platform was because I think there, and I know there are a lot of people who listen who are in the midst of thinking about things they'd like to change in their life and steps that they'd like
Yeah,
to take that can sometimes be frightening and scary.
totally.
And when you and I met, you were in a completely different place. And so, what led you to leave that world and venture into a
Yeah.
world of writing and traveling?
And just to touch on that, everyone
Hmm.
told me my entire life that I was meant for real estate. So leaving was
Okay.
especially hard. I
Yeah.
think there are two reasons we don't leave things. Either we're good at them or those golden handcuffs just keep us there, right? And
Hmm.
that's hard to leave. I think for me, I just had this deep, deep sense that real estate didn't align with my best skills. My skills are
Hmm.
actually more leaning towards children and education,
Hmm.
and real estate didn't really serve those skills. But you can't be mad at yourself for all those detours and first stops because,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, real estate taught me so much about
Yes.
marketing yourself. So if you're coming from real estate, like you can enter any field because first of
Yeah.
all, you probably handled a ton of rejection.
Hmm. So
That's like a
true.
huge skill. And
Yes.
second, you know how to market yourself and you actually are probably really understand people. So whatever you go
Hmm.
into next, you have a
Hmm.
really great base. And I actually
Hmm.
dropped out of college. So going into real estate as an 18-year-old, when Mo and I met, I was 18,
I still
maybe
can't believe that.
19. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, don't be hard on yourself. You just got to
Hmm.
analyze yourself, what you feel like, what's bringing you there, like why you're in real estate, and then maybe just start exploring. Like you don't need to make any big decisions right away.
Hmm. Yeah. And you and I were just talking briefly before we hit record today, and I was saying how the listeners that I've met who listen to my podcast, it's a range of all ages. And I
Mhm.
find I'm connecting and meeting with a lot of people that are in my mom and dad's age bracket. My mom and dad are almost 70 and
Yeah.
in their 60s and late 50s, they made some big life changes that
Yeah.
not a lot of people make in terms of how they live and what they chose to do. And so it really has just been a reminder to me that people have all sorts of dreams at all ages, and I think it's really
Yeah.
important for people to feel like they can make those dreams a reality if they choose to.
And
So,
different generations went through different things. I'm in a generation
mhm,
where I have access to all information and I
mhm,
am told that I don't have to be one thing or another. And so if it takes
mhm,
my generation convincing all of you that are older than us that yeah, you can go back to college at 50 or yeah, you can change careers, quit your job, girl. Like
mhm,
you do what you got to do. I know you weren't told you could, so we're going to stand here and remind you.
mhm. Yeah. So I love that we started off with that, and I also remember a conversation that you and I had just about probably 2 years ago when I was in Denver leading a retreat for a real estate team, actually. And we happened to connect at that time and we were like, let's jump on a call and just check in with one another because we do that.
Yeah.
And I also want to say for those of you that are listening, when you run across people in life, sometimes you don't know why you're connecting and what the point
Yeah.
is at the time. And I think you and I, it's kind of been one of those friendships where we don't talk all the time, and yet when we
Yeah.
connect, there's a reason for it, and we
And it's
always,
really meaningful. And what I've always
yeah.
really appreciated about you, like we have not much of an age difference, but it's sometimes tough to to
Hmm.
like get people to take me seriously. And
Hmm.
you've been one of the best people I've met as an adult. I was coming through a lot when I met you, and you just really inspired me just to stay true. And I just will always appreciate that. So thank you.
Oh, no, I'm so glad. Well, I really believed you. I think that's
Mhm.
the biggest thing that adults, and I try to carry this on with me, that I felt as a kid was if adults don't believe you and believe in your passion, it can be really disheartening. And I believed you in that. I
Yeah.
believed that you wanted to find your passion, you wanted to find your path, you
Yeah.
wanted to make a difference, you wanted to make an impact. And I think all it takes is believing someone for them to,
Absolutely. And I
yeah,
am going to
yeah.
spend the rest of my life convincing kids of that. But when you and I met, I was 18. I was coming out of being a small town girl who just dropped out of college. And my entire life, I
Hmm.
was told that I would become nothing and that
Hmm.
my dreams were ridiculous. And that, someone like me who has no education, isn't that smart, isn't that pretty, like I'm just like going to wash away and just need to get married and do all those things that people tell you for I don't
Hmm.
even know why. So, didn't
Hmm.
have many believers. And so to
Hmm.
have a stranger or your keynote speaker believe in you was like huge.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, even rewinding a bit further, part of that presentation, I included talking about my intuition. And that was totally
Yeah.
a leap for me because at the time I remember people saying like, "Oh, you're going to talk about that? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure
It
you're going
was
to?" I was
not
like,
like it was taboo still, even in
"Yes."
2018.
Yeah, so I remember putting that up, and you specifically stood out to me as someone who I connected with more afterwards. But then after that keynote speech, I was sitting out in the hallway with a friend, and a woman was walking back and forth across the hall. And finally, her friend came up to me and said, "Hey, she needs to talk to you. Do you mind if she talks to you?" I was like, "Of course, please." And she came up to me and she had a whole bunch of messages for me from her guides and people that she felt like were telling her, "Hey, you have to
Oh,
go talk to this girl after her speech." And so,
me?
well, oh
Oh,
no,
this other
me.
girl. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
was gonna
okay.
say, like you and I and her, there was something
Yeah.
about the three of us that it felt
Yes.
very synchronistic and very much like,
Yeah.
okay, this is why I had to be my whole full self. This is why I had to put
Yep.
myself out there. And so this definitely feels kind of like the essence of what we're gonna talk today about with your
Yeah, and
journey.
actually, I have a key moment that stuck with me since that presentation. You had us look each other in the eyes, and I was with a woman who, background-wise, nothing like me. Woman in her maybe her 40s, 50s, a good old Southern belle from very different parts of life. And we
Hmm.
looked each other in the eye, and I could see the look in her face when she got done looking deep into my eyes, and like I could tell, like whatever she felt from looking at me and whatever I gave her was so like helpful, and it just like it made it like opened my brain up to be like, oh, I can do something for others, like
Yeah,
people appreciate me in a way I didn't
yeah.
know. And so she just like cried and cried, and I think she still like wishes me a happy birthday.
Oh, that's so lovely. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. So yeah, you never know what's gonna happen when you follow your intuition. You never know what's gonna happen when you can truly allow yourself to be yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, so going off of that, we've kind of already talked about the second question
Yeah.
that I put in there. Um, I guess, but though the last part of that, though, is do you have any recommendations for some baby steps that people could take that are listening if they're thinking
Yeah.
like, "Oh, gosh, I've really wanted to do this in life, but I know what I need to do to get started, but how do I even begin? Like, what do I
I think
do?"
everyone's different. And I think I have like this fascinating combination of a personalities that's like wing it. And the other half is like, okay,
Yes.
let's analyze and make a plan.
Yeah.
So for me, for that planner side, which is I'm assuming the side of people that prevents them from moving forward, what
Hmm.
I needed to overcome that was actually just a lot of self-discovery. And
Okay.
whether like I remember taking every single personality test that year, the Enneagram, looking at my astrology, the
Yes.
MBTI, like every single one of them. And every single one of them, very obviously, I'm an Enneagram 2, I'm a Pisces. Like those are people that cannot help but help. And so once
Hmm.
I was like, oh wow, this gift that everyone growing up was like, oh my God, there's this weird culture in America where like, and I think other places too, that like this hyper independence and like it's
Hmm.
like weak if you want to help people and you want to be nice. It's like seen as looked down upon. And so I was
Hmm.
training myself in real estate to be like this tough girl who like didn't take any shit and like just like ignored people and didn't have feelings and
Hmm.
dated people just because they were hot, like this weird culture, right? And then once I sat down and I was like, I'm unhappy because my skills are not being met and my soul is drawn to helping others because I've gone through so much and I know what it's like. So it's going to be me. Like I need to
Hmm.
go like act on this. And so
Hmm.
once you just kind of analyze yourself and you're like, these are my skills, these
Hmm.
are where they work in the workforce. And this is what makes me happy. I think once you
Yeah.
get those three, you can just kind of figure it out from there.
No, that's a really good point. Just we always talk a lot about diving inward on my podcast and talk
Mhm.
about intuition a lot. And I think for some people, it's almost like so in your face that you don't really stop to do it though.
Yeah.
Like people talk about going inward, but some people are like, what does that actually mean? And
It's hard
I'm
because
going to,
they start out by saying like meditating, and I actually am not someone that's good at meditating. I can't
hmm
sit still. I have a hard time calming my brain now. Probably have a tinge of ADHD. But it doesn't, everyone's different. Like how you get there
yeah,
is different. Intuition
yeah,
does not mean that you've sat with your eyes closed in a dark room for 3 days.
hmm
Like just go explore, like recognize who you are in situations, the people
hmm
who appreciate you, like you for me. Like I was analyzing, like, okay, why does she like me? Why do we connect?
hmm
Oh, I like these parts about me. I'm going to move forward and meet people like that in
hmm
industries like that. And
hmm
then I'll feel happier. And I did.
hmm hmm yeah. No, I think it's a really good suggestion for people if you're listening. It's like reaffirming some of those personality assessments. I
Mhm.
always tell people you can't fit in a box. You can't put anybody in a
No.
box. However, what it did though was it gave me language for myself that I hadn't had
Yes.
before. And so I think you're really right. Like just allowing ourselves at any age to dive in and learn more about ourselves and affirm that we
Yeah.
always knew who we were.
And
But
not
it's
to
like we need to
mention,
affirm that
you
ourselves.
cannot put a label on you. We are
Hmm.
evolving humans, and I
Hmm.
refuse to believe these
Hmm.
subset things about me because I'm actively always trying to change. And
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't mean like just for the better. Like, no, I want to change, I want to grow, and I know
Hmm.
everyone else does. And we don't talk about that. We're always
Yeah.
labeling each other,
Yeah.
and there's no need for a label. We're like
Hmm.
changing all the time.
Yeah. Constant evolution, constant
Mhm.
morphing and
And
changing.
that's like
Yeah.
the beauty of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what got you to this point then where you were like, okay, I want to write a children's book? Because I think we had talked about you writing, but I don't remember at what point you told me, oh, a
It
children's book. And I was like,
actually
wow.
took a lot of encouragement, and my best friend is a mother of four.
Okay.
And finally, she just looked me dead in the eye. She's like, "You need to write a children's book." And so I just thought, "Oh my gosh, okay." So I sit down and I write three children's books. It was like just serendipitous. Her neighbor is a children's book author, so he came over that
Oh,
night and
wow.
read all of my manuscripts, and he was like, "First two, garbage. That third one." This is a huge theme. My book is called Strong Girls. It's the first book I published. And
Okay.
he was like, this is the one you go for. And I
Okay.
just went with it.
All right. So what about Strong Girls? What really pushed you to want to write about women?
It just came really naturally, coming from a really small town and like being bullied in school, and like
Hmm.
teachers didn't always get me. I had a rough, like later half of upbringing, like a really rough one. Things were hard at home. My parents were always fighting. I didn't have really any support. Everyone was really sad. And so going to school, I wasn't ready to learn. I was
Hmm.
there for safety. I needed to get out of my home. I was afraid. I was scared. I was sad. And so like teachers and my peers, they didn't understand me, and they just saw me as like an angsty, like loser. And
Hmm.
so, that's how they treated me.
Hmm.
And, it took many years of basically being a lone wolf to like pick myself back up and to teach myself all those things that we expect our parents or our peers or our teachers to tell us, like those missing pieces of confidence, all those things that keep us going. And I had to teach myself those. And then I had to straight up, as everyone says on the internet these days, like delusionally believe them
Yeah.
until I was okay enough to like fight for my future.
Hmm.
And I'm not the only girl that goes through that. And so I kept
Hmm.
this part of my life so secret because I didn't want people to look differently at me. But you know what? Like, we're not talking about it because everyone's told us that like talking is like gossip, which I have like this theory that that's just to get us not to share information. But
Hmm.
really, information is extremely powerful. And the
Hmm.
more people I started telling, the more I realized no one told them either. And so
Hmm.
I thought, when I look at things from a really big scale, on like, how can I make the world better? I
Hmm.
can only very quickly surmise that women that are uneducated and women that aren't in the workforce are a population that we should really be taking advantage of their brains, and they should be contributing, because I think we come to solutions a lot quicker. And so if it meant me writing books and spending the rest of my life like encouraging them to feel confident enough in their intelligence to do
Hmm.
something about it, then like I've lived. I'm happy.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you hit on a couple different interesting points there. The thing about gossip is so interesting. And to me, the first word that came to
Mhm.
mind was intention. So
Yep.
if your intention behind sharing information is to better people's lives rather
Yeah.
than, talk poorly about someone, that's a completely
Yeah.
different intention.
I think even when
Um,
you hear someone talk poorly or you do it yourself, I think there's a learning there. I think there's information there, you
mhm.
know? Like, I
Yeah.
think you should just analyze it all and just like reflect and think about it. I think people say things without realizing it. And if you just read between those lines a little bit and match them with their actions, you're like, okay, I get this now. And
Hmm.
even when I don't like talking bad about people, like, as I'm sure a lot of people do, but we've all done it and we all hear it. And I think like the conclusion I come to is, wow, that's how a lot of people feel actually. And now that I know this is interesting information. I'm going to keep this in mind. Especially, I
Hmm.
just got back from Africa, hearing how they felt about Americans, fascinating. Now I
Hmm.
know that the average African person thinks this about us. And that
Hmm.
helps me help them and help us.
Hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what's kind of the basis of the book and who is it directed at? What's the age group? Like you said, children's book, but is it like
The age
two to
group for
five
this
or?
book is like really really anyone who needs it. I give it out to like 10-year-olds. I write on
Okay.
Amazon. It's from 2 to 10.
Okay.
It's probably the imagery and stuff is probably best for more like, an early reader, early
Okay.
school age. So like probably like 2 to 7. But
Okay.
it's a book that's supposed to be there, that's lighthearted and easy to read for a reason. Like I want you to go through the characters are made by a small town girl named Macy. And so, we have that in common. So we worked really hard to make sure it's a concept that people all felt related to.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole concept of the book is how to be a strong girl. And I think like people expect it to be like you're confident and you work out and you eat healthy, but what I really wanted to show is that strong girls actually all look different, and it actually has nothing to do with us being alike that makes us strong. It's all of
Mm-hmm.
those moments in between. And so I really tried to harness that and put that there because there were a lot of moments in my own life that I was like, oh my God, I'm so depressed and sad. I'm like the weakest person I've ever met. But really, like strong girls get sad too. Like strong
Mm-hmm.
girls experience bullying too. Strong girls look all different. They don't look just like me with white skin and blue eyes, like they look all different.
Mm-hmm.
They come from all different places, all different backgrounds. Like I don't want any girl to feel limited by where she came from or what she looks like or
Mm-hmm.
even how she feels. Like it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What did you learn the most through the process of just writing the book? What stuck out to you?
Um, I wrote it really quick. I write books really fast. It was like, bam, it's done. The hardest part was waiting for illustrations and then publishing it. I
Mm-hmm.
think what I learned though was books and education. The average family in America and around the world just looks a little different. We don't all have a mom and dad at home. And
Mm-hmm.
so really the key to fix the next generations and the mindsets is like you can't really teach an old dog a new trick, but you can for sure give all those little kiddies all that information they need to be ready to learn and take on the world. And I think that will change the world. And I think everyone thinks that will take too long, but really if I'm writing for an 8-year-old, in 10 years, she's going to be voting,
Mm-hmm.
So I think the most important thing I learned was kids are the future. They will fix things. The next generation was just named Generation Alpha. Like, man, I can't wait to see what they do. And I'm so excited to encourage that.
Yeah. I love that you shared that about too, just that the actual writing of the book, it wasn't what took up most of the time. It's the
Yeah.
waiting for the publishing and going through
Yeah.
that piece. I know a lot of different people that have book ideas but they stop themselves from
I hear
going
that
through
all the
with
time.
it.
They're like, oh, I almost published a book. Just for everyone listening, if you ever thought about publishing a book, you can publish through Amazon for free. If you do all
Yeah.
the work and you upload it as a PDF, you can make it through
Yeah.
Canva for free. You can use Canva's images for free. You can upload it to KDP for free. Give it a
Mm-hmm.
shot. It flunks. Who cares? It might get
Yeah.
popular in 10 years. Like really
Yeah.
what it comes down to, what makes your book good is your ability to market. And going right back to that real estate, it's a real good thing that I sold
Mm-hmm.
my soul to the real estate company because I learned a lot.
It's so true. And you hit upon what I find too with a lot of clients is it's interesting, no matter the industry, people who have a hard time selling themselves or
Yeah.
selling what they do, it seems to be like the number one blocker from
Yep.
them having success in their business. And it's just actually learning that it's not about you. Like, yes, you're selling yourself, or you're selling what you
Mhm.
produce or what you give to people. But it's not a selfish thing. It's so
No.
interesting. Yeah.
No, no. I mean, let's put in perspective. Let's imagine that I was like, Strong Girls is a book that I just wanted to use to like, let's say, I don't know, like get famous, as if anyone would get famous from a children's book. But let's just play. And then I don't write this book, and then I don't go to Africa, and then I don't talk to thousands of women, and then I don't have, even if I helped one girl, I would have
Hmm.
taken that away from her. And I
Hmm.
know not everyone writes the way I write for people in self-help, but you just never know who needs to read that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never know. So don't put
Yeah.
it out for you. You're putting it out for the person that you wrote this for, who is presumably the you that you used to be. And like,
Hmm.
I'm sure you would have wanted someone to do that for you.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. That's kind of what keeps me going as well, is knowing that you never know who you're going to help. And a lot of people will never tell you, like, oh,
Of
you really
course,
made a
you're not
difference.
going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that part too. It doesn't mean you're doing bad at all. It's just,
Hmm.
also we're in a culture of not telling people how we feel. We keep it to
Hmm.
ourselves.
Hmm.
But I mean, I hope we're
Yeah.
going to change that. I think we will.
Oh, yeah. I think it's happening. Hey, I'm popping in for a moment to let you know that if you're interested in working with me one on one in a small group, or you'd like to attend one of my upcoming retreats, please reach out or add yourself to my email list. You can go to iloveitwhen.org and scroll to the bottom where you'll see there's a spot to sign up. I also love to speak, teach, and create experiences for small, medium, or large size companies. If you know someone that I should know, please connect us. I'm looking to utilize I Love It When to create global change, and that will require collaborating with all of you. You're all so much more powerful than you realize. Remind yourself of that today. So, you mentioned that you went to South Africa. Can you share a little bit about your recent trip and what led you to travel there in the first place and share your
Yeah.
message? Yeah.
It's actually kind of a silly story. I dated a South African and he broke my heart miserably on the day I won Miss Vermont. So I win Miss
Wow.
Vermont, it's supposed to be like the best day of your life, and your boyfriend, or not boyfriend, but the guy you're in love with dumps you. And he lived in South Africa and he taught me South Africa. He taught me how to maneuver, how to be safe. It's not an incredibly safe space for like a small white woman, but like you can learn. And it's helpful going anywhere learning from a native, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
all this time I was like heartbroken thinking, oh my God, I thought I was going to move here because I was in love with him. And then I sat down and I went to Miss Earth USA, and I knew after the USA competition, I might be a little strung out. And I thought I should go on a vacation. And I was like, well, where do I know well enough to feel safe and go alone? And I said, well, I know South Africa really well. He doesn't live there anymore. Perfect. I'll go there and I'm going to have the best time. I'm going to go surfing. I'm going to meet cute boys. It's going to be perfect. I go there. It was even better, but it didn't even go the direction I could have
Yeah.
ever anticipated. You have to be open to saying yes to everything. And so I went out to lunch with a lovely woman, and there sat a group of nonprofit owners who were discussing how to talk to girls about their periods. And it's all just men. And I'm just sitting there laughing. Like, I'm just like, you need help. I'm going to help you. So I agreed to do one school visit. And the guys, Africans are so good at negotiating. And so they come over to my apartment to prepare me for this interview. And they're like, so, and this is a 3-week trip, mind you. I'm like 4 days in. They're like, so how long are you here? And I'm like, another 2.5 weeks. And they're like, great, we've scheduled every single day for you for school tours because we just really need your help.
Wow.
Yeah. So after that, the rest was really history. I woke up every single morning waiting for a text from them to be like, here's when you're ready, here's where we're going, here's how many kids you're speaking to. At first, I thought I was just going to explain to them what a period was, and it just got so much bigger. Yeah, it was
Because I remember
incredible.
when you first shared with me that you were there and what you were doing, you were like on Canva making flyers about how to use
Yes.
a
Yeah, how
pad,
to
how
use
to
a
use different
tampon.
feminine products. And I was like, wow, this is really turning into something completely.
Yeah, and you know what was fascinating? This is why you have to just follow your intuition. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't even get my period because I'm on birth control. I am actually not
Mhm.
the girl to ask. But I learned to teach these kids, and my followers on Instagram, I kind of showed them, I posted that I was making graphics, and they're like, how do we help? And I'm like, well, you could
Mhm.
donate money and I could buy more sanitary pads, because a big issue in South Africa in particular is the government in any like third, second world country is usually kind of corrupt. And so they're still going through things that we've already gone through as Americans. Like, we had people fight for Black rights and women's rights, and they're getting close, but they just need a little more help. Like, the government doesn't assist all those small Black communities, but they assist all the white rich ones. All the white
Mhm.
rich ones have condoms and pads, but you know who doesn't? The population that's repopulating at an extremely rapid rate. And these
Mhm.
girls aren't going to school because they can't free bleed in school. So
Mhm.
they're missing out on their education, which is now why I'm invested. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, what? You're taking a week off from school every single month because
Mhm.
you are a woman? And so I was like, whoa. So I figured, my thought was, we'll go buy these girls a bunch of sanitary pads. We got like $750 of donations. That's a lot of sanitary pads in South Africa. The
Yeah.
handouts are fine, but the handouts are not going to sustain them. The government needs to do something. And I was hoping by standing up and posting and being so active that it would get the government's attention and be like, oh, we should probably fix this. And that's kind of the goal. But really what ended up happening was the second I had them into those schools and I carried that box and I'm like, hi, I'm here to donate sanitary pads, and they hand me a microphone, I now have an opportunity to explain to them exactly how to change their country. And I told them, you have to stay educated. Like, please keep fighting for your education, because education is the biggest tool. It's the biggest weapon. If you know why your country is the way it is, how it got there, you can change it. And I was like, and I know you girls like want to change. I know this isn't the country you want your kids growing up in. So how do we fix it? And then bullying is huge there. Like, the government is so good there at pitting them against each other. And it's like things America has already seen. I feel like I'm watching the history classes I took. And so I was like, girls, we don't have time for bullying. You have to stick together, because if I'm talking to you, 500 kids right here, that means we're 501 people. That is enough to yell at the government or like ask for help or like fight for your rights. Like, if you just turn inward instead of going away from each other, we could fix this in literally one generation. So the pads were great. And yeah, I'm glad we could help them with that. But that didn't end up being the point. That was simply the end to get there, to give them the encouragement from a white woman in their Black schools of being like, you can take the power back. You can do good. You can have a better life. But it's going to like require you guys working together. And so that was important for them. No one had told them that.
Yeah. Gosh, so many things there. What do you think
Yeah.
were your 2 to 3 like biggest lessons from your time traveling and doing that?
You learn a lot by listening. That's the first step. Do not speak until you've listened. Because there were a
That's a
lot of
big
things I
one.
thought I knew and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And once I listened, every one of my speeches got better, because I was like, okay, I'm understanding better now. I understand how we got to this point and how you guys feel and why you haven't stood up before. Also, like, human connection, giving those girls a hug, even, that is so important. We do not talk enough about touch. And I think it's because, touch has become a sensitive subject because so many people have taken advantage of it over the years. And so a lot of us don't feel safe. But us girl on girl, like being able to give them a hug and look them in the eye, them feeling like they were listened to and seen, and then like you were willing to touch them as even a biracial relationship, was monumental. Like, it made them feel like really loved. And that is the one thing that will literally get people to do anything. If you feel enough love, you have enough confidence to do anything. And yeah, those were my biggest takeaways.
Those are big. Yeah, you've really hit on some big ones. Touch is such a big one that I think we don't talk
Yeah.
about enough here in America either. About, like you said, that even the research that's been done around the number of times people should ideally be hugged each day and for how
Even
long.
American children, American babies. I was a nanny and then a high school teacher after being in real estate. Being a nanny, American children cry more. And it's because a lot of cultures wear their babies. They have those little babies right skin on skin. And humans, to regulate our nervous system, it's all learned. So when your baby's on your chest, it's hearing you breathe. It's hearing you calm down to sleep. And so when you're a baby being put in a crib and then being brought to daycare, and like, no hate, because it's hard being a mom. Like, it is so hard to be a mom in America sometimes. Like, there's a lot of pressures. But having that connection teaches them how to regulate. And a lot of these kids, even myself, went through life up until adults not knowing how to regulate, and just being around people that were regulated and feeling their heartbeat and like being on their vibration and their energy plane. It teaches you how to be calm and still and like confident. It gives you all those things.
So true. Yeah. Well, one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about while you were on the podcast today was about your intuition, because that's something that you and I talk about a lot. And I definitely see how it's played a part in your journey that you've been sharing with us.
Yeah.
So I also love asking people how they define their intuition, because the way that you define it, totally different from me, totally different from anybody else I've had on my podcast. And it always reaches a different audience. So how would you define what your intuition is?
I think like a lot of people, my intuition came from probably like bullying and being like a little bit abused as a kid. You learn how to anticipate people, like what they might say, what their mood might be, even their actions, like how they move. You're able to like kind of project what they might do next and how to accommodate that. And I think that's where my intuition started. And now that I'm like an adult and, have autonomy over my body and my mind and like my decisions, it's obviously changed. And it took a while because there were a lot of moments that I lost my intuition because things like anxiety and depression, that is just not intuition. It's unfortunately just like clouds all your intuition. So I had to learn a lot of practices to get out of those mindsets, like the scarcity mindset and feeling anxious and things like that, so I could really listen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you'll know because your intuition will feel a lot calmer than anxiety-ridden thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know how I would even really define my intuition other than it's just those calm thoughts at the end of the day that my like dreams, I've always been a major manifester. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us that went through hard stuff became really big like daydreamers. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
you should just keep going with that,
Mm-hmm.
and just follow it so hard, even if it's
Yeah.
delusional. You're gonna get so much further than you ever thought.
I love that you said that about dreaming because I was recently having lunch with someone who's a mom and she has two girls, and we started talking about manifesting, and because I was telling her about how
Mhm.
I operate in my business in my life, and it's so different from what a lot of people are comfortable doing because we're not taught this way. And she said, "Oh, 100%, I taught my girls how to dream." And
Yes.
it's just about envisioning and imagining and allowing yourself
Yes.
to go there. So I love that you said that because I think that will
And
definitely
people
resonate.
always like to say daydreaming is like for people that have no ambition and like
Yeah.
people that, are trying to escape reality. But, my dad used to say to me when I was little, I think I used to spend a lot of time alone. And he's like, I know you're daydreaming. And I'd swing on the swing for hours. And you know what? The things I manifested as a little girl,
Yeah.
they've almost all come true. I just wanted so bad to help the world and be popular for that. And it's like coming true. And
Hmm.
and it feels when you dream that you're being selfish, but you're
Hmm.
not. Like everyone has a different role in this world. And if it's coming up in your dreams, you should follow it.
Hmm.
Also, I'd like to say, touching on the children thing again,
Hmm.
having been a nanny and seeing young kids, you are so connected with your intuition as a child, and it is
Yeah.
taught out of you. Fear
Yeah.
is learned. I've watched it so many times. Fear
Hmm.
is learned. All these feelings are learned. Kids are the most intuitive little creatures you'll ever meet. Also,
So
great
true.
show, Love on the Spectrum. People with autism and Down syndrome,
Oh,
stuff like that,
okay.
they're really in tune with theirs too. And
Yeah.
and if you watch them, kids and all these people that don't have those inhibitors to like get them not to share their intuition, you'll learn some things.
No, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I was wondering if you would share how you hear, see, or feel your intuition. Do you have any stories or examples that you feel like you could share
I'm a
that?
bit of a like, I spent years training my dreams to show me symbolism. I just fall asleep. You can go through it by entering through a dream you've already had, or just try really hard to remember, or like put things in your head you really want your body to decompress and think about. And so when you sleep, your body's organizing. As soon as your brain shuts off, it actually, as soon as your body shuts off, your brain turns on and it's filing away all of that information that you've received, seen, heard, felt subconsciously. And so you need to kind of, how I always have done it is like, okay, here's what I need to sort through tonight. And tomorrow you just might feel a little more clear. I don't hear like a voice telling me this is what it is. It's
Hmm.
just like, I know that whatever gives me peace, whatever comes like not easy, but comes peacefully is like
Hmm.
where I should be.
Hmm. Do you have an example of like a sign that you saw that led you to write your book or led you to travel somewhere or
Oh my gosh, there have been so many. Um, if you look for them, they're everywhere. I love
yeah,
numbers too. When
yeah.
I walked up to my apartment building in South Africa, the number was 505. And if you look up the spiritual meaning to that, it's like you've arrived at your destiny. Like what happens next was like the wheel of fortune. It already was in motion. It's already happened. Like you're
Hmm.
already in it. And it's hard going to another country. I was all alone. I didn't know anyone.
Hmm.
Mind you, that guy I dated had moved. He didn't live there. He wasn't there to come save me. And so I had
Hmm.
to get into cars with strangers being taken to the most dangerous parts of South Africa. I know I freaked you all out. I know you were all so scared for me. And I
Oh, it
had to
was
just
definitely
trust.
definitely out there. Yeah.
And there were a couple people I didn't go with that I just knew. I just like felt uneasy. You just know. And so there are other people that I just felt like deep love for immediately. And I was like, okay. But you also, I went through a lot of situations where I felt tricked into trusting people I shouldn't have. And I think that's not exclusive to me. I think we've all been through that.
Yeah.
Some people do kind of trick your intuition. You'll only get better. Don't be mad at yourself. It doesn't mean your intuition's bad. It just means
Hmm.
that you didn't meet that type of person yet. And there are some fantastic maskers out there.
No, that's a really good point. I'm glad that you said that because
Also, a great
it could
way to
definitely
fact
happen.
check intuition, you need to ask yourself why they, if it's a person, what their intentions are, why you think they want to be with you, why they think they want your help. Like for me, example, I had to be like, why do they want me to come to schools with them? Does this benefit them, or am I being somehow taken advantage of? And once
Hmm.
I was able to kind of backtrack and put the dots together, I was like, no, they do need me. So this is
Hmm.
good. This is a good sign.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you said what you said about being easy on yourself because I think people can be so hard on themselves if they didn't get it right or they like, and
Yeah.
it's happened to all of us, myself included, where, uh,
Yeah.
and sometimes people don't even know that they're doing it, don't even know that they're
No.
manipulative or that they're subconsciously
And
doing something that's not truthful.
those people just have a gift for that. And like, I don't
Hmm.
think all people are bad. And I don't even think a lot of manipulators mean to manipulate. Unfortunately, that's why it feels so honest and feels
Hmm.
so unintentional. I think some people just go through a lot of big wounds and they just can't get through it. And so you just have to remind yourself too, if they manipulated you and you feel wronged by someone, they're probably hurting really bad. Something
Hmm.
happened that made it so hard for them to connect
Hmm.
that it has nothing to do with you. It has
Hmm.
nothing to do with you. You were just a really nice person that they felt so comfortable with that they just could be in your space.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you should be like proud of that. Like
Hmm.
if you're like attracting people like that, like I know it sucks, but like, you might have a really bright aura and you should take
Hmm.
that elsewhere, protect that, but like,
Yeah.
be a little proud.
Yeah. No, you're right. Uh, all right. What do you think are like? Where's your energy focused right now in your business and life? Are there any teasers you can give us for stuff that you have coming down the
I'm
pipe?
going to
And
write books forever. So there
okay,
will always be a book out and it will be for all ages. Right
okay,
now I'm working on an activity book, and also I personally love coloring books, adult and young. And I noticed my best friend always keeps a little coloring book in her purse for her kids. And I love coloring books. So we're going to create a bunch of new stuff too, just like for everyone. But really, if I could have any dream come true for the next couple years, I would just love to get my books and write basically the core curriculum for South Africa. Like, I want to give all the kids all the information I've ever had, all the information that us as Americans have ever fought for to have, and just give it right back to them. So I plan on probably getting a flat in South Africa and going straight to the US Embassy, getting real security detail this time, and meeting with the Minister of Education. Her and I have already spoken a little bit. Like, she knows I'm coming. She knows it's coming. I think for me, it has a little less to do with my business. I've set things up so that money always trickles in. Like, that's what I learned from real estate too. You got to make sure you're paying those bills. So make
hmm
sure you have even multiple sources of income are good. I write books, so money comes in every time someone buys something. So that's what
hmm
keeps me steady. And also I freelance a couple other things. Every now and then I'll pick up a nanny shift,
hmm
like, do what you got to do. And yeah, I hope that this is aligning with my path enough to keep paying my bills and that I can really make some change. But that's me. Everyone's on their own
yeah.
journey. You do not need to go to South Africa to prove it.
Well, if people want to learn more about you and follow along, what's the best way to do that, or to
You can
purchase your
go right
book?
onto my Instagram. I'm a really big poster. It's under the handle Miss Isabella Williams. I also
Okay.
have a website. I'm really bad at updating it because I'm always so busy, but definitely go there. My book is on Amazon. And if you go to my Instagram, all the information will be there.
Okay. Okay. One of the last questions I want to ask you before we end is, what do you wish more people knew about you?
I wish more people knew that I faced a lot of adversity to get here. And I think it's really easy because I straighten my hair and I put on my mascara that it looks like it was all kind of easy. It was really hard. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think actually most of us go through even way worse than me. So I just want you to know, every time you look at my face, I want you to see yourself and be like, I can do it too.
Hmm. I love that.
Mm.
All right. Well, the last question I like to ask everybody who's been on the podcast is, what's your current I love it when for either the world or for yourself or both?
South Africa really changed me. The people, it's funny, they don't have any money, they don't even have running water, but man, are they the happiest people ever. And I love it when people are so honest and open about how they feel about you. And I said I love you more in South Africa than I have ever said in America. And so I love it when people can just say I love you, because it meant so much. It like makes me emotional.
Yeah, I love that. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for being, I guess this is your first podcast episode that you've ever done. So I'm so excited that I Love It One gets to be a part of your journey, and I'm just looking forward to seeing more and more of your story unfold. So thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks. Bye, guys.